1. Lesson from effort. This is a lesson my 10-year-old daughter Sarah, who has to wear leg braces due to a birth defect, taught me. One beautiful spring day, Sarah came home from school and eagerly told me about her participation in the school's sports day. Thinking about Sarah's legs, I immediately prepared some comforting words to prevent her from feeling discouraged. But before I could say anything, Sarah excitedly said, "Dad, I won 2 races." I couldn't believe it. Then Sarah added, "I had an advantage over the other kids, Dad." Oh, I see, I thought. I imagined that Sarah might have been given a head start or something like that. But once again she spoke up before I could say anything. "Dad, it's not that I got a head start. My advantage is that I always know I have to try really hard." 2. Heaven and hell are created by the mind. There was an old woman known as the lady who always cries. Whether it rained or not, she would cry. Someone asked her, "Old lady, why do you cry?" She replied, "I have 2 daughters. One sells fabric shoes and the other sells umbrellas. On sunny days, I worry about my daughter who sells umbrellas not making sales. On rainy days, I worry about my other daughter, as no one buys shoes in the rain." The person suggested, "You should think that on sunny days, your older daughter will sell a lot of shoes, and on rainy days, your younger daughter will sell many umbrellas." "That makes sense," she said. From then on, the lady who always cries stopped crying. She smiled all day, whether it rained or shined. Commentary. Whether something is beneficial or not depends on how you see it and think about it. 3. The woodcutter and the god Hermes. One day, a woodcutter was chopping wood by the river. Suddenly, he lost his grip and his axe fell into the river. The strong current carried the axe away. The woodcutter sat by the river and cried. His crying caught the attention of Hermes, the god of shepherds and the forest. Hermes appeared and asked, "Why are you so upset?" The woodcutter replied, "Dear God, my axe fell into the river." Hermes stepped into the river and soon came back with a gold axe. He showed it to the woodcutter and asked, "Is this your axe?" The woodcutter looked at the gold axe and said, "No, that's not my axe." Hermes went back into the river and returned with a silver axe. He asked the woodcutter, "Is this your axe?" The woodcutter replied, "No, that's not mine either." Hermes dived into the river one more time and brought back the woodcutter's iron axe. The woodcutter saw his axe and joyfully exclaimed, "Thank you, God. That's my axe." Hermes, seeing the woodcutter's honesty, gave him the gold and silver axes as a reward. The woodcutter took all 3 axes home and told his neighbors what happened. One of them decided to try his luck. He went to the river and threw his axe into the water, letting the current take it away. Then he sat by the river and cried loudly. Hearing the crying, Hermes appeared and asked, "Why are you crying?" The man replied, "Dear God, my axe fell into the river. Please help me get it back." Hermes retrieved a gold axe and asked if it was his. The man eagerly said, "Yes, that's my axe." Hermes, realizing the man was lying, not only did not give him the gold axe, but also did not retrieve his iron axe. Moral: honesty is a valuable trait. An honest person will be trusted and respected by others. 4. Following in Father's footsteps. We often repeat an action, and it becomes a habit. Nurture a habit, and it shapes your character. There was a man who had a routine of visiting the town bar for a drink every morning before starting work. One morning, after kissing his wife and children goodbye, he headed towards the bar. Shortly into his walk, he felt someone behind him. Turning around, he saw his son happily following in his snowy footprints, saying, "Look, Dad, I'm walking in your footsteps." This realization stunned the man. He thought, "I'm heading to the bar and my son is following me." From that day on, he never visited the bar again. 5. Put on the red outfit. My job is to care for children with AIDS. The relationships I have with these special kids are a priceless gift to me. Let me tell you a story about a brave boy named Tyler. Tyler was born with HIV passed to him from his mother. Since he was a baby, he has needed many medications to survive. Sometimes he even needed oxygen to help him breathe. But Tyler never gave up, not even for a moment. We often saw him playing and running around the yard with a heavy backpack full of medicine and pulling an oxygen tank behind him. Tyler's joy and energy amazed us all and felt like a miracle. His mom noticed he ran so fast, so she dressed him in a red outfit. This way, when she looked out the window to check on him, she could easily spot him. The illness eventually took its toll on Tyler, and he became weaker. Sadly, his mother was also very sick. When it became clear that Tyler didn't have much time left, his mother told him she was also dying and that she would soon join him in heaven. A few days before he passed away, Tyler signaled for me to come close to his bed and whispered, "I'm going to die soon, but I'm not scared. When I die, please dress me in my red outfit. Mom promised she would join me in heaven. When she gets there, I might be playing with the other kids, and I want her to find me easily." 6. Genius or fool. A young man went to a monk seeking guidance. "Master, some people call me a genius, others scold me as a fool. What do you think?" "How do you see yourself?" the monk responded. The young man looked puzzled and did not understand. The monk continued, "Take a pound of rice, for example. To those who cook, it's several bowls of rice. To a baker, it's several cakes. To a liquor seller, it's several cups of liquor. The rice remains the same. Likewise, you are who you are, and how skilled you are depends on how you see yourself." After hearing the monk's words, the young man finally gained clear understanding. Don't fear being underestimated by others. Fear underestimating yourself. Who says you are worthless? No one can decide how your life will unfold. The path you choose will determine how your future develops. The greatest value in life is whether we can recognize our own worth in life. 7. The milkmaid. At a farm, there was a milkmaid of average looks. Her daily job was to feed the cows and milk them. Because of this, her clothes were always covered in milk and her face and hair were messy. The milkmaid loved to daydream about becoming beautiful. One day, after finishing her milking, she balanced the milk jug on her head and walked back to the farm. As she walked, she started to daydream again. When will I get to wear new dresses? Next year? Or the year after that? No, I don't want to wait that long. I've talked to my mom about this many times, but she never listens. Wait, why don't I ask her for this jug of milk? I could sell it and buy 300 chicken eggs. Even if some of the eggs don't hatch, at least 250 chicks will. I'll fatten them up, and by fall, they'll become big, healthy chickens. When the price of chickens is at its highest, I'll sell them at the market. Then I'll have enough money to buy a beautiful new dress. I'll wear that dress to the Christmas party. Young men will fight over who gets to propose to me, and I'll just shake my head and refuse them all. At this thought, the milkmaid shook her head. The milk jug fell, spilling milk all over the ground, and with it, her beautiful daydreams vanished. Moral: no matter how beautiful your dreams are, they won't come true by themselves. To make dreams come true, you must take action.
If you like this video, please comment 1. And if you don't, comment 2. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.
8. The Tale of Two Zen Masters. There was a Zen master who lived in a small hut on a mountain. One evening, after his meditation walk, he noticed a thief rummaging through his hut, unable to find anything valuable. The master took off his outer robe and waited at the door for the thief to come out, wanting to avoid startling him. When the thief emerged, The master kindly said, "Friend, you've traveled so far to visit me, I can't let you return empty-handed. Take this robe to keep warm." He then draped his robe over the thief. Ashamed, the thief bowed his head and hurried down the mountain without looking back. The master, watching him disappear into the foggy forest, felt pity and said, "How unfortunate! I would give him the moon to light his way down if I could." A few days later, the master saw the robe neatly placed at the gate as he watched the sun rise and joyfully remarked, "I finally gave him the bright moon after all." Another similar story occurred at the Zen monastery of Master Xianhai. There was a young monk who couldn't stand the quiet and solitude of the monastery. He would sneak out at night using a chair to climb over the back wall. After discovering this, the master didn't tell anyone. One night, following the young monk, the master moved the chair to the side and sat where it had been, waiting for the monk's return. Late at night, the monk came back, and not realizing the chair had been moved, accidentally stepped on his master's shoulders. Startled, he immediately knelt down, speechless. The master helped him up and softly said, "It's damp and cold at night. Be careful. Let's go inside and rest." The young monk, overwhelmed with fear and regret, couldn't sleep that night, worried about being publicly reprimanded. However, the master never mentioned the incident, and the young monk, feeling deeply ashamed, never sneaked out again and eventually became a renowned monk of his time. If you were a Zen master, how would you handle these situations? In the first story, an ordinary person might struggle with the thief or shout for help. In the second, they might publicly scold the young monk and punish him separately. But what would be the outcome of such actions? In the first story, the thief might hurt or even kill the master, or come back for revenge later. In the second story, the young monk might feel humiliated and lose the motivation to continue his spiritual practice, eventually becoming a regular person and abandoning the monastic life. These two Zen masters acted not as ordinary people like us, but with great tolerance and compassion, transforming a wayward soul into a celebrated monk. People are not saints and naturally make mistakes, but those who err should be treated with forgiveness and understanding. Silence often teaches more effectively than loud reproaches. Tolerance is a virtue that nourishes life like the spring rain, and it is an essential quality in all of us. 9. Never give up. Years ago, during the excavation of an ancient Egyptian tomb, an archaeologist discovered seeds buried in a piece of wood. When planted, these seeds sprouted, showing their hidden life force after being buried for over 3,000 years. Are our living conditions so discouraging, so prone to failure, that we, failing to recognize our own potential, accept living in silent despair and failure? Or do we also have seeds of potential within us, with such a strong urge to grow that even the hardest shell of adversity can be broken? Consider this story that was widely broadcasted by the Associated Press on May 23, 1984. As a little girl, Mary Grota couldn't learn to read or write. Experts thought she had developmental delays. In her teenage years, she was labeled incorrigible and spent 2 years in a reform school. Strangely enough, it was there that Mary began to learn, studying 16 hours a day. Her hard work paid off with a high school diploma. But misfortune continued to follow Mary. After leaving the reform school, she became pregnant with no support. 2 years later, a second pregnancy led to a stroke, causing her to lose the reading and writing skills she had worked so hard to gain. With the help and encouragement of her father, Mary fought against her illness and regained what she had lost. Despite financial hardships, Mary persevered. To avoid desperation, she adopted 7 children at once. During this time, she started attending a community college. After completing her studies, she applied to and was accepted into Albany Medical School. In the spring of 1984 in Oregon, Mary Grota Lewis, now married, walked across the stage in her graduation gown to receive her medical degree. No one knew what Mary was thinking as she accepted her diploma, a symbol of her self-confidence and perseverance. The diploma announced to the world that here, in a small corner of the earth, there was a person who dared to dream an impossible dream, a person who proved the incredible capabilities humans can achieve. Standing proudly was Mary Grota Lewis, Doctor of Medicine. Desire and nurture your dreams, for they are the driving force behind the greatest achievements of your life. 10. Religious leader. A respected religious leader was praying devoutly in a flower garden. At that time, a distressed maid in a panic was frantically searching for her lost child. In her urgency, she didn't notice the religious leader kneeling in prayer and accidentally bumped into him, but she didn't even apologize and hurriedly ran off. The religious leader, visibly annoyed, stomped his foot, feeling quite angry. After he finished his prayers, the maid found her child and joyfully ran back. Seeing the angry expression on the religious leader's face, she was very surprised and startled. The religious leader said in frustration, "Can you explain your actions just now?" The maid replied, "I'm sorry, sir. I was so worried about my child's safety that I didn't see you there. But weren't you praying? The being you were praying to surely values more than 1,000 times what my child does to me. Why did you even notice me?" At this, the religious leader bowed his head and remained silent. 11. The thief and his mother. Once there was a child who loved to steal from a young age. One day he came home from school with an extra slate in his bag. His mother asked, "Why do you have 2 slates?" The child replied, "One belongs to my classmate. I secretly put it in my bag." His mother happily said, "My child is so smart. 2 slates are definitely better than 1. Soon after, the child brought home a leather jacket worth 50 coins. He gave it to his mother, and she praised him. "My son is so clever and caring. Come here. Let me give you a kiss." As the boy grew older, he started stealing more valuable items. One day it was a cow, the next day a horse, and then gold and jewels. His mother always praised him. If something was missing at home, she would ask her son to steal it. One time, the boy got caught stealing and was taken to the authorities. Because he had stolen so many things, he was sentenced to death. The thief was tied up and taken to the execution ground. His mother followed behind, crying bitterly. At the execution ground, the thief asked to say a few words to his mother. When she came close, he bit her ear hard. His mother screamed in pain and scolded him, "You ungrateful child! It's not enough that you're being punished. Now you want to injure your mother too?" The boy angrily said to her, "If you had scolded and taught me the first time I stole the slate, I wouldn't be in this situation and facing the death penalty." When someone does something wrong, no matter how small, it should be corrected immediately. If not, the mistakes can grow bigger and cause lifelong regret. 12. Life's train station. Deep in our subconscious, there's a countryside scene. We're traveling by train, captivated by the fleeting landscapes outside the window. Children waving at crossings, cattle grazing at the foot of hills, rows of corn and wheat stretching out, flat plains, valleys, rolling mountains, gentle hillsides, and distant villages against the far-off sky. But above all, in our minds, is the final destination. One day, we'll reach the station, the bands will play, and the flags will wave. When we arrive, all our dreams will come true, and every piece of life will fit together like a perfect puzzle. This thought makes us restless. We walk up and down the aisle, counting the minutes, waiting to get to the station. How happy we'll be when we get there, we think. When I'm 18. When I buy a Mercedes-Benz 450 SL. When my youngest child goes to college. when I pay off my debts, when I get promoted, when I retire, I'll live a peaceful, happy life. Sooner or later, we realize there is no station, no place to arrive. The true joy of life is in the journey itself. The station is just a dream. It always stays just out of reach. Enjoy the moment is good advice, especially when paired with the scripture. This is the day the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. Isn't it the burdens of today that wear us out? No, it's the regrets of yesterday and the fears of tomorrow. Regrets and fears are thieves that steal today from us. So stop pacing the aisles and counting the miles. Instead, climb more mountains, eat more ice cream, go barefoot more often, wade in the rivers, watch more sunsets, laugh more, and cry less. Life is a journey we're on, and soon enough, we will get to the station. Never regret the past. Your real life is today, and you are creating your future. 13. The wave of awareness. Seeing a big wave nearby, the little wave got upset. It's so frustrating. That wave is so big and I'm so tiny. They're so strong, but I'm so weak. The big wave laughed and replied, "You're only upset because you don't realize where you come from." "What do you mean, I'm not a wave?" Waves are just temporary shapes. In reality, you're water. Once you understand that your true nature is water, you won't feel frustrated about being a small wave anymore. The little wave smiled, realizing, now I get it. You and I are different, yet we are one. Commentary. People often think of themselves as separate and unique, leading to feelings of difference and sadness. In reality, all humans are made of the same essence in the vast universe. 14. The merchant and his donkey. A merchant often went into town to buy goods and loaded them onto his donkey to bring back home. The donkey thought it was very clever and always tried to find ways to make its load lighter. One time, the merchant bought a load of salt. He tied it tightly and put it on the donkey's back, then walked behind, urging the donkey to move quickly. After a while, they reached a small river, and the merchant urged the donkey to cross it. The donkey slipped and fell into the water. The river water soaked the salt, causing a lot of it to dissolve. When the donkey got up, it found that the load was much lighter, which made it very happy. Learning from this experience, every time they crossed a river, the donkey pretended to slip and fall to lighten its load. The merchant knew this and decided to teach the donkey a lesson. He bought a load of cotton and put it on the donkey's back. Once again, they came to the small river. Seeing the river, the donkey joyfully stepped into the water. In the middle of the river, the donkey pretended to slip and fall again. It happily thought, "When I get up, my load will be much lighter." But when the donkey stood up, it found that the load was much heavier. The cotton had absorbed the water and became much heavier. The donkey, surprised by the heavy load, had no choice but to continue walking without complaining. When doing anything, you cannot rigidly apply old experiences. You need to assess the current situation and adapt accordingly. 15. A cup of tea. A professor from a prestigious university visited a Zen master because he had heard about the master's wisdom and noble character. To impress the Zen master, the professor proudly listed all his titles and degrees he had earned through years of hard work and study. Then, he explained that he wanted to learn all about Zen. Instead of giving an explanation, the Zen master invited the professor to sit and have some tea. The master poured a cup of tea for the professor and continued to pour even after the cup was full. The professor watched the tea overflow until he couldn't stand it any longer and exclaimed, "The cup is full, no more will go in." The Zen master calmly set down the teapot and said, "Like this cup, you are full of your own opinions and biases. How can I show you Zen unless you first empty your cup?" This story teaches us that with a mind full of prejudices and rigid thoughts, We cannot learn or accept new knowledge and noble philosophies. Showing humility and letting go of our ego helps us to empty our minds and be open to new wisdom. If you find these stories inspiring and they motivate you to take action, please comment 9. If not, comment 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time. 16. The House Dog and the Wolf. Under the moonlight, a hungry wolf was sniffing around for food when he came across a very well-fed house dog. The wolf said, "Hey buddy, you look strong and healthy. You must be eating really well, right? But why do I have to live in such scarcity?" The house dog proudly replied, "If you want to live a high-class life like me, just come with me. I guarantee you'll have a comfortable life." "That sounds great," the wolf said eagerly. "So what kind of life is it?" The house dog explained, "It's not hard. You just have to guard the house and make sure no thieves sneak in." "That's it? No problem," the wolf continued. "Living in the forest, I deal with rain and wind every day. If I can lie comfortably in a bed and not worry about being hungry, I'll do anything." "All right then, follow me," said the house dog to the wolf. On their way, the wolf suddenly noticed a big scar on the house dog's back. Surprised, he asked, "What happened here?" "It's nothing, just a small wound or maybe a callus from my collar." The house dog brushed it off. "A collar?" The wolf was shocked. "Are you saying you don't have freedom?" "Not true," the house dog replied. "During the day, sometimes my owner ties me up, but I assure you I'm completely free at night. Besides, they all like me a lot. My owner shares food with me, and the servants give me leftovers." "Goodbye, my friend," the wolf said. "You can continue enjoying your perfect life. As for me, I'd rather stay hungry than put a chain around my neck and lose my freedom. If you have to give up your freedom for a moment of comfort, it's not worth it." 17. The King and the Blind Man. To read other people's thoughts, you need to know 3 techniques. Mastering these skills is crucial for understanding what others are thinking. So let me tell you a Buddhist story that teaches you how to read people's minds. In a small village, there were 2 brothers. The older brother was blind and spent most of his time at home, while the younger brother was a farmer. However, their farm was often damaged by animals. Worried about this, the younger brother came up with a solution. He thought, why not have his blind brother help scare the animals away? He could sit in the field and shout if he heard any animals, protecting their crops. After some thought, he built a small hut in the field for his brother, explaining, "If you hear any animals, just shout and they'll run away, saving our crops." The blind brother agreed and began his watch in the field. Whenever he heard animals, he would shout, scaring them away. They continued this practice for several days. Once, a deer ran through and broke the fence before fleeing. Soon after, a king chasing the deer arrived at the field. He saw the blind brother and asked if he had seen the deer. The blind man replied, "Your Majesty, I am blind. How could I see the deer? However, I can tell you that the animal has left my field and is not worth chasing. You are wasting your time." Surprised by the blind man's response, the king wondered how he knew this and asked if he was lying since he claimed to be blind, yet spoke about assessing the deer's value. The blind brother said, "Your Majesty, the animal you think is a deer is actually a pregnant doe. I've never heard of a king hunting a pregnant doe, so I said it wasn't worth your pursuit. You shouldn't waste time chasing it." The king was amazed to hear this and couldn't understand how a blind man could know it was a pregnant doe. He wondered if the blind man was sure the deer he was chasing was pregnant and how he could confidently inform him about this despite being blind. The king felt the need to verify this and instructed his commander, "Commander, I want the animal captured alive. I need to confirm if it's really a pregnant doe. The blind man seemed very sure about this, and I need to investigate. Go and find out if it's pregnant." The king's order was carried out, and when the commander returned, he reported to the king that the blind brother was right, and the doe was indeed pregnant. The king was astonished and couldn't understand how the blind man knew about the doe's condition. He had many questions and decided to ask the blind brother to find out the truth. "I may not know if you are truly blind, but I've come here to ask you one thing. Are you willing to answer my question accurately?" The blind brother said, "Your Majesty, you may ask me anything, and I will answer truthfully." The king said, "You are a wise man and seem to know many things. Today I have called you here to find out if my wife is faithful to me." The blind brother responded, "Your Majesty, what is this question? Your marriage has lasted many years, and now you want to know such things? Why are these questions appearing in your mind?" However, the king insisted, "You must answer this question. If you do not provide an answer to me, I will punish you with the death penalty." Hearing the king's threat, the blind brother said, "Your Majesty, if you want an answer to this question, you will have to do something for me." The king asked, "Tell me, what do I need to do?" The blind brother replied, "To do that, Your Majesty will have to leave your wife alone with me in a room." Initially, the king was angry to hear this, but eventually agreed to the request and ordered his commander to leave the blind brother and the queen alone in the room. At that moment, the blind brother expressed a desire to touch the queen. Hearing this, the queen became angry and began hitting the blind brother with her hands, feet, and all her might. Afterward, the blind brother escaped and met the king. The blind brother told the king, "Your Majesty, your wife is not faithful." Enraged, the king drew his sword and confronted the queen. The king issued a warning that any falsehood would lead to the death penalty and asked if she was faithful. The queen replied, "You may kill me, but I am not faithful." The king was pleased that everything the blind man said was true. Hearing this, the king immediately returned and asked the blind brother how he knew his wife was unfaithful. The blind brother replied, "Your Majesty, it was actually very simple. I told your wife that I wanted to touch her, and she became so angry that she began to hit me. When I said I wanted to touch her, she could have refused, but instead, she began to hit me, and in doing so, she touched my entire body. Your Majesty, tell me, how can such a woman be faithful?" The king said, "You are indeed very wise. All right, answer one more question accurately, and I will grant you your freedom. Tell me, am I really the son of my father, or am I the child of someone else?" The blind brother responded, "Your Majesty, why are you concerned about this question? No matter whose son you are still the king of this country. Please disregard this question." But the king insisted, No, I want to know the accurate answer to this question. Otherwise, it will always bother me. I want to know the truth." The blind brother replied, "Your Majesty, I can tell you right now whose son you are, but before that, I want you to promise not to be angry with me." The king said, "I promise I will not be angry." Afterward, the blind brother told the king, "Your Majesty, you are indeed the son of your father, but you are also influenced by a stingy merchant." Hearing this, the king quickly asked his mother, "Mother, please tell me the truth. Am I the son of my father, or am I someone else's? If you do not tell me the truth, I will end my life right here." The king's mother replied, "My dear, you are indeed the son of your father, but you are also influenced by a stingy merchant." Hearing this, the king felt happy and immediately returned to meet the blind brother. He asked how the blind brother knew that the shadow of a stingy merchant was present on him. The blind brother replied, "Your Majesty, you have asked me many questions, and I have given you accurate answers to all of them. If you were a different king, I would have received many rewards by now, but you have never given me a penny. From this, I estimated that you are very stingy." The king laughed and said, "Whatever you request, I will fulfill. But tell me how you know what is right and what is wrong, how you can provide such accurate answers." The blind brother replied, "Your Majesty, I was born blind. If I had eyes, I could easily understand the thoughts of anyone. The mind has its own language, and this language can be seen in the actions of a person's body. By observing their eyes, lips, the way they walk, and their activities, we can understand what is going on in their minds. Based on that, we can know anyone's thoughts. But since I am blind, I recognize through actions. If I want to know something, I have to assign a task to the other person to see how they perform it, and from there I can understand what is going on in their minds." The king asked, "Does that mean I can also know the thoughts of others?" The blind brother responded, "Certainly, Your Majesty, you can also understand the thoughts of anyone. But first, Your Majesty needs to practice on yourself, which is to calm your mind and bring it to the present. Therefore, today I will tell you 3 ways, and these ways are very simple and easy. But first, Your Majesty must do one thing, which is to focus your mind. When we focus our mind and integrate our mind into the present, we can understand the thoughts of others because they are thinking in the present, and we also need to bring our minds into the present. If we are thinking about the past, how can we know what the next person is thinking in the present? Because we are immersed in the past. To know someone's thoughts, we must first focus our mind and bring it to the present." Then the blind brother said to the king, "Yes, Your Majesty, I will tell you 3 ways through which Your Majesty can easily understand the thoughts of anyone." The blind brother continued, "O king, the first method is to pay attention to the eyes. The most important thing when we talk to someone is to look into their eyes, because the eyes do not speak but say a lot. If we learn to understand the signals in a person's eyes, we can know what is going on in their minds, what they are thinking, and what they are about to do. I do not have eyes, but I learned this skill from Gautama Buddha many years ago, who was once my teacher and guide. At that time, I had eyes and could understand the thoughts of people just through their eyes." The blind brother continued to explain, "So, if Your Majesty also wants to know the thoughts of others, Your Majesty should pay attention to their eyes, like their gaze, where they are looking. And if their eyes wander somewhere when you are talking to them, it means they are trying to escape the conversation and maybe lying. If the person avoids direct eye contact, it means they are afraid that their lie might be exposed and the truth will be known. However, if their eyes look at you without blinking, perhaps they are sincere and interested. They want to talk and share their thoughts with you. Observe how their eyebrows move. If their eyebrows lower while looking elsewhere, they may be deeply thinking or worried about something else. If their eyebrows rise and their eyes become larger, they may be surprised or curious about what you are saying. Also, see how their pupils dilate or contract. The pupil is the black part of the eye. If the pupil dilates, it means they like you or what you are saying, they are excited or happy. If the pupil contracts, it means they do not like you or what you are saying, they feel uncomfortable or angry. Also, look at the white or red part of their eyes. The white part of the eye is called the sclera. If the sclera is red, it means they are tired, stressed, or sick. They may not want to talk to you. I remember once meeting a tired traveler. When we talked, his eyes continuously looked around and never directly at me. This indicated that he was anxious and wanted to leave quickly. I think he might be hiding a secret. Pay attention to the expressions on their faces. Sometimes a person exhibits different behaviors through their face. If you pay attention to the expression on their face, you can easily understand if that person is disappointed, very sad, or extremely happy. You can also guess how they are feeling inside, and all of this can be determined through the expression on their face. Finally, the blind brother told the king about the third method. "Your Majesty, there is another language, which is the language of gestures and body language. To understand the thoughts of a person, we need to understand their hand gestures and body language. When a person speaks, Your Majesty may have noticed that they continuously move their hands and create gestures. Besides words, body language plays an important role in conveying what a person is thinking. Your Majesty, the body and hands can say a lot without words. It's like a secret communication where you can see what others want and feel just through the small actions they perform. Think about when someone taps their fingers quickly on a table while talking to you. When fingers create a fast sound on a surface, they may be feeling bored, rushed, or want to end the conversation soon. When someone crosses their arms, they may not like you or what you are saying. They are hiding their thoughts. The way they hold their arms like a wall, protecting their thoughts and emotions from others. Observing this sign, Your Majesty can act gently and carefully when talking to them, helping them feel comfortable and more open. When someone frequently touches their face while talking to you, it also helps you understand their thoughts. This often means they are worried, thinking seriously, or having a big idea. These small gestures let you know what is going on in their mind and heart. If we pay attention to these three methods and understand them accurately, we can quickly know what is going on in a person's mind, how much attention they are paying to our words, and what is going on in their mind. However, first, Your Majesty must focus your mind and bring it to the present. Only then can Your Majesty pay attention to all these actions, understand them, and realize what is going on in that person's mind. Your Majesty may have seen many saints and enlightened people who look at you with great calm and can tell you what is going on in your mind and what you come to learn from them. The biggest reason for this is that they have the ability to read and understand you because their minds are focused and serene, and that's why they can easily understand your thoughts. Remember, understanding others is not only based on observation skills, but also depends on how we bring our minds to the present and become sensitive to the nonverbal signals others send us. By combining these three methods, paying attention to the eyes, facial expressions, and body language, we can expand our understanding of the world around us and enhance our communication skills.
If you like this video, please comment 1. And if you don't, comment 2. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.
18. King Ashoka's return to Buddhism. When Buddha was still alive, he entrusted the propagation of Buddhism to kings and ministers to spread the Dharma widely. King Ashoka, a descendant of King Ajatashatru, was born to Emperor Bindusara and a Brahmin mother. As a child, Ashoka was unattractive and unloved by his father. However, as he grew older, he became exceptional. During a rebellion in the city of Ujjain, his father sent him to suppress it. Once peace was restored, his father recognized his achievements and appointed him as crown prince. Shortly after, Emperor Bindusara passed away, and Ashoka ascended to the throne. He was initially very cruel, killing hundreds of servants, ministers, and relatives. One spring, Ashoka took his concubines to enjoy the royal gardens. The concubines were busy playing and admiring the beauty of nature, ignoring him. Enraged, he ordered their execution and returned to the palace, abandoning the outing. The whole country viewed him as a tyrant. Ashoka established a place called the Hell on Earth, named the Garden of Delight. It looked beautiful on the outside with lotus ponds, rare plants, and fragrant flowers, attracting people to visit. However, inside it was filled with instruments of torture. Anyone who entered was imprisoned and tortured. Even concubines who quarreled were brought in for punishment, creating a scene of unimaginable suffering. At that time, a monk, while begging for alms in the city of Pataliputra, unknowingly entered the Garden of Delight. Seeing the beautiful exterior and the hellish interior, he was terrified and tried to leave, but was captured by the guards. Despite pleading and crying, he was not spared. The chief jailer asked, "As a monk, why are you crying like a child?" The monk replied, "I'm not afraid of death. I'm crying because I'm afraid of losing the opportunity to pursue spiritual benefits. I have just started my monastic life and have not yet attained enlightenment. It's hard to be born as a human and even harder to encounter the Dharma. If I die here, I won't be able to continue my practice, which is why I'm crying." Moved, the chief jailer granted him 7 more days to live. During those days, the monk witnessed the horrific punishments, including women being crushed to death and children being thrown into fires. Reflecting on Buddha's teachings, he realized the impermanence of worldly beauty and attained enlightenment, becoming an arahant. On the 8th day, the guards prepared to throw him into a boiling cauldron, but the oil remained cool. The chief jailer angrily ordered more wood to be added, but the monk remained unharmed, seated on a lotus in the cauldron. Shocked, the jailer reported this to King Ashoka. Upon hearing this, Ashoka rushed to the Garden of Delight. He saw the monk demonstrating miraculous powers, with water above and fire below floating in mid-air. Ashoka, amazed, thought, "We are both human, but this monk has such powers while I commit great evils." Ashoka knelt before the monk and said, "Please come down and bless me. I vow to abandon evil and follow you." The monk responded, "Excellent. By repenting and taking refuge in the Triple Gem, you will gain immense merit, bringing great fortune to your people." The monk then returned to his monastery. Filled with joy, Ashoka prepared to leave but was stopped by the chief jailer, who reminded him of the rule that no one who entered the hell on earth could leave. Ashoka asked if the jailer intended to kill him. The jailer replied it was the king's order. Ashoka questioned the jailer, "Who entered this garden first, you or me?" The jailer answered, "I did, your majesty." Ashoka immediately ordered the guards to throw the jailer into the boiling cauldron and burn down the Garden of Delight. From then on, Ashoka abandoned his cruel ways, practiced compassion, and was praised as Dharmashoka, the righteous king. Guided by the 4th patriarch, Upagupta, Ashoka deepened his faith and sent 256 monks across the country to spread Buddhism. Lesson for us: compassion is the source of happiness. 19. Father and Son. When Mark turned 5, his parents got divorced. He stayed with his mom, and his dad joined the military. As Mark grew older, he occasionally remembered the times he spent with his dad every day. During his teenage years, thoughts of his father faded. Mark started dating and got busy with life's demands. After graduating from college, Mark got married. A year later, his wife gave birth to a healthy baby boy. Life went on smoothly. Then, when Mark's son turned 5 and saw Mark shaving, the boy looked at him and laughed. "Dad, you have cream on your face. You look so funny." Mark laughed, looked in the mirror, and suddenly remembered a similar moment with his own dad from years ago. This made him think more about his father, and he asked his mom about him. His mom couldn't remember much as the details had faded over the years since Mark was 8. Looking deeply into his mother's eyes, Mark said, "I need to find Dad." She suggested, "Maybe try contacting the U.S. Embassy in England. They might be able to help." It seemed like a long shot, but Mark was determined to find his father. Over the next few days, he called the embassy and explained his situation. After several anxious moments and comforting words from the embassy staff, "Mark, please don't be sad," he finally received a bit of hope. "Mark, we're happy to inform you that your dad once came to England to visit someone but never met them and has been living alone all this while. We have records from 9 years ago. We'll check again and try to find an address for you." A few days later, Mark received a phone call from his father. He was overjoyed. His patience had paid off. His dad explained that he had been traveling every 6 months trying to find him. He had Mark's address, but when he went there, The landlord said Mark and his wife had moved 2 weeks earlier and left no new address. After a long time searching, Mark and his father reunited in a deeply emotional moment. Now, they are a part of each other's lives, and nothing can replace the precious bond that was lost for so long. 20. Growing up is not about age, but inner self. Maturity isn't about age, it's about what's inside. Age shows on the outside, but true maturity is found within. Mature people have a calm soul. Maturity is like a big river flowing quietly at night. It seems calm on the surface, but it holds great power inside, capable of cleansing everything. If everyone has an aura, a mature person's would be white, bright but not blinding, radiant but not flashy, positive yet not reckless. A mature heart is like water, gentle but strong. Joys and sorrows leave no trace. Maturity isn't about age. It's about having a peaceful and calm inner self. No matter how the world changes or how stormy it gets, a mature person remains steady like a mountain. Maturity and wisdom are about self-improvement. They involve reflecting on oneself and are a state of being. On the journey to maturity, everyone goes through many experiences and learns a lot. No matter how long or tough the road is, if we grow with every step, that's success. 21. Dare to take risks. Two seeds lay next to each other on a fertile piece of land. The first seed said, "I want to grow. I want to send my roots deep into the soil and sprout through the hard layer of earth above. I want to bloom with gentle petals as a sign of welcoming spring. I want to feel the warmth of the sun on my face and enjoy the morning dew on my petals." And so, the first seed grew. The second seed said, "I am scared. If I send my roots down into the deep soil, I don't know what dangers I might encounter in the darkness. If I push through the hard layer above, I might damage my delicate sprouts. And if my sprouts do manage to grow, snails will come and eat them. And even if my flowers bloom, children might just pick them. No, it's better I stay right here until I feel completely safe." And so, the second seed waited. One spring morning, a chicken scratching around for food found the lonely seed and pecked it up immediately. You see, those who do not dare to take risks and grow will be swallowed up by life. When we hide in safety, we create a world full of insecurities. 22. The expensive peacock painting. A king heard about a painter who was famous for his beautiful oil paintings and decided to visit him. "Paint a picture of a peacock for me," the king requested. A year later, the king visited the painter again. "Where's the painting I ordered? I asked you to paint a peacock," the king said. "Your peacock will be ready right away," the painter replied. He took out a piece of paper and quickly painted a beautiful peacock. The king was very pleased, but the price shocked him. "It only took you a little time and effort to paint this picture. The work seems easy and quick, so why is it so expensive?" the king asked. The painter then took the king on a tour of his house. Each room was filled with stacks of peacock paintings. "This price is very reasonable," the painter explained. "Although it took little effort now, it took a lot of my energy and time over the past year to be able to paint this peacock for you. I have been preparing for this painting for an entire year." 23. The Bear and the Two Men. Two men were walking together when suddenly a bear appeared on the path. One man quickly climbed up a tree and hid among the dense branches. The other man, realizing he was about to be attacked, lay flat on the ground. As the bear approached and sniffed around him, he held his breath and pretended to be dead. The bear eventually left because it is commonly said that bears do not touch dead bodies. Once the bear was gone, the man in the tree climbed down, ran to his friend, and jokingly asked, "What did the bear whisper in your ear?" The other man seriously replied, It gave me a piece of advice: never travel with someone who abandons you in times of trouble. 24. Forgiveness. Among Buddha's cousins, Devadatta was always jealous and determined to harm him. One day, while Buddha was standing on the slope of Vulture Peak, Devadatta climbed to the top and pushed a large rock down towards him. Fortunately, the rock was stopped by other rocks before it reached Buddha. However, the impact caused some pieces to break off, and one piece hit Buddha's left foot, causing him to bleed. Later, Devadatta became seriously ill for many years and was bedridden, with no supporters coming to visit him. During his illness, he had a lot of time to reflect on his actions and felt deep regret. He sincerely repented and wanted to see Buddha before he died. By then, he was very weak and could only look at Buddha with pleading eyes. With great effort, he managed to say, "I take refuge in Buddha." Buddha placed his hand on Devadatta's forehead, comforting and accepting his repentance. No one had as noble a character, developing loving kindness and compassion as Buddha did in his time. Even towards those who intended to harm him, he showed mercy and forgiveness. Today, many of us still judge and misunderstand others, causing much suffering for ourselves. This story teaches us that reducing anger and increasing forgiveness leads to happiness, as taught by Buddha. 25. The Weeping Widow. There was an old woman known as the Weeping Widow. She would cry whether it rained or was clear. She often sold incense outside a monastery. One day, a monk asked her, "Why do you cry so much?" She replied, "I have 2 daughters. One married a cloth shoemaker, and the other married an umbrella maker. On sunny days, I feel sad for the younger one because no one buys umbrellas. On rainy days, I feel sad for the elder one because who buys cloth shoes in the rain?" The monk advised, "Old lady, you should be happy for the elder on sunny days because her shoes will sell, and be happy for the younger on rainy days because her umbrellas will sell." Ah, you're right. From then on, the weeping widow stopped crying. Whether it rained or shone, she always smiled. Whether something is favorable or not depends on our perspective. 26. Silence is a way to behave. Ancient wisdom teaches us that speaking is a skill, but staying silent is a way of the wise. Why do the sages of old remain quiet? Because they consider everything in the world insignificant, distancing themselves from the hustle and bustle to keep a calm mind, like a still lake. Nguyen Trai retreated to nature, finding peace with the clouds and mountains. Nguyen Bin Kiem avoided the chaos of life, preferring solitude. Life's constant noise and excitement pull us into an endless whirlpool. It's only when everything has passed that we realize our souls have been clouded by the dust of the world, burdened by material temptations. In this chaos, only the serene mind of the wise can rise above the madness of humanity. Ancient teachings remind us to remember this principle of conduct. It will help you live more wisely. Words once spoken are like arrows shot from a bow. Physical wounds can heal over time, but some words can haunt a person for life, until their last breath. So, never let anger take over. Although we know this well, we often fail to control our emotions when facing conflicts or disappointments. Anger can cloud our judgment, leading us to actions we might regret forever. Consider the story of Genghis Khan, who in a moment of rage killed his beloved falcon, only to realize later that it had been saving him from poisoned water. Regretting it was too late, and the falcon could never fly again. We think our anger is justified for others' benefit, but it only stirs negative feelings, especially resentment. This can lead to tragic events, often starting with angry words that hurt someone's pride. Anger harms not only others but also ourselves, burning away our peace and fortune. Respecting others is crucial. Whether someone is a king or a beggar, everyone has the same dignity. Respecting others means respecting yourself. Don't try to control your partner's life or make decisions for your children without considering their opinions. Respecting even a child's perspective can lead to harmony and happiness in a family. As a boss, don't impose your views on your employees. They might comply out of fear, but it won't earn their genuine respect or loyalty. People perform best when they feel respected and responsible for their tasks, without needing constant oversight. Everyone grows up in different environments and has unique experiences. These differences shape our personalities and views. If we always judge others by our own standards, it will lead to conflict. Try to understand others' perspectives, and you might find new and touching experiences. Observing your thoughts every moment helps you control your emotions and actions. Emotions can be wild like an untamed horse. If not controlled, they can cause damage. The sages of old valued moral cultivation, often reflecting on their thoughts and actions daily. This practice helped them improve continuously. Understanding yourself through observing your thoughts allows you to recognize what truly matters and avoid wasting time on unimportant things or people who don't deserve your attention. Instead of trying to change others, focus on changing yourself. When your heart changes, your circumstances will change too. Lastly, silence is golden. We've heard, too much wine can make you drunk. Too many words, no matter how wise, can become tiresome. Silence doesn't mean you are weak or incapable. It can actually make you more valuable in others' eyes. Knowing when to be silent shows respect for others and gives you a chance to understand them better. Silence can also prevent you from saying hurtful words in anger. In silence, you can observe nonverbal cues and demonstrate humility. Listening makes others feel happy and more willing to open up to you. Disaster comes from the mouth. Illness enters from the mouth. Silence provides a moment to calm down and avoid saying harmful things. Keeping secrets and staying silent can make you more trustworthy and help you avoid unnecessary troubles. Gossip can lead to misunderstandings and even jeopardize your happiness and career. Constant self-improvement and maintaining genuine moral standards will bring you good fortune and happiness. The principles of ancient wisdom are about controlling personal desires and avoiding harm to others, leading to harmony and a happy life for everyone. The story of the monk Dai Hung and Ngok Tring illustrates the power of silence. Despite being wrongly accused and suffering for years, the monk chose silence, which proved more meaningful than 1,000 words. In the face of injustice, the wise consider all worldly gains and losses as fleeting as clouds. This view helps maintain inner peace. They see fame and fortune as transient, like clouds gathering and dispersing, and remain unaffected by joy or sorrow, success or failure. Their hearts remain as calm as a still lake. If you find these stories inspiring and they motivate you to take action, please comment 9. If not, comment 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time. 27. The Monkey. An old man with the appearance of a wise sage entered a small village at the foot of the Himalayas and proclaimed to all the villagers that he knew a magical spell to turn stones into gold. However, he stated that nothing in life is free, and those who wish to learn this magic must first pay with the most valuable item they own as tuition. The villagers were poor and had always dreamed of wealth. Therefore, they gathered to discuss and agreed that sacrificing a bit to learn the spell was a fair deal. They collected money and gave it to the old man as tuition, eager to learn his magical spell. All they heard was the old man swallowing loudly as he chanted a spell, and then he turned a stone in a wooden barrel into a shiny gold nugget. "Teach us now," everyone demanded. The old man did not hesitate to teach them the spell. Once even the simplest villager could recite the spell by heart, he was pleased and told them, You can start using the spell tomorrow morning at sunrise. I assure you, you'll be able to turn useless stones into shiny gold nuggets. But remember, when you chant the spell, you must not think of the monkey on the Himalayan mountain. Not even once, the villagers repeated, puzzled. What does gold have to do with a Himalayan monkey? They thought the old man was being absurd. Why should they even think of that monkey? But as centuries passed, people say, if you visit the village today, you will find many who place stones in barrels and mutter the spell, trying hard not to think of the Himalayan monkey. They never managed to produce gold, but no one blames the old man for lying, because the more they try not to think of the monkey, the more they do. 28. Traps. How do the Eskimos hunt wolves in the icy and freezing Arctic? This question has puzzled many people. Eskimos use very sharp knives dipped in animal blood and then left outside to freeze. They repeat this process several times to create thick layers of frozen blood that completely hide the knife blade. At night, they stick the knives handle down in the snow. The wolves smell the animal blood and come closer. They start licking the frozen blood layers, becoming more eager as they continue. Eventually, the wolves reach the knife blade, cutting their tongues, but they think the blood is from the prey and lick even more. The more they bleed, the more they lick until they die from blood loss. In the morning, the Eskimos simply collect the dead wolves. The outside of a trap is always very tempting and attractive. Invest in your mind and no one can steal from you. Those who are rich in material things are still poorer than those who are rich in knowledge. 29. The saltwater cup. There was a Zen master who had a disciple who often complained. One day, the master put a spoonful of salt into a cup of water and handed it to his disciple. The disciple tasted it and said, "It's unbearably salty." Then, the master poured even more salt into a lake and asked the disciple to taste the water from the lake. After tasting it, the disciple remarked, "It's wonderfully fresh and pure." The master then explained, "The sorrows of life are like that salt. Their impact depends on what holds them. Do you want to be a cup of water or a lake?" The disciple understood, and from then on he complained less, always keeping his heart open and welcoming all aspects of life. Read more. Simplify your life to lessen sadness and suffering. 30. The mean dog. There was a mean dog that would attack anyone it met, but it did this so suddenly that no one expected to get hurt until it bit their heels. To warn strangers and to punish the dog, the owner sometimes put a bell around its neck or made it drag a heavy log attached to its collar with a chain. At first, the dog hung its head in shame, but when it realized the bell and log got it more attention, it became proud and ran around the market to show them off. It even acted arrogant and boastful towards other dogs. Seeing this, an old hunting dog said, "Why are you acting so proud as if the bell and log are awards? Sure, they get you noticed, but once people understand their real meaning, they are a reminder that you are a mean dog." Being known for good qualities is one thing, but being infamous for your mistakes is another. 31. The war horse and the donkey. Once a war horse ready for battle with a stunning saddle and harness galloped along a road sounding like thunder with its hoofbeats. A poor old donkey loaded with goods was also slowly walking on the same road. The war horse said, "Move aside or I will trample you into the dust right now." The frightened donkey hurriedly moved out of the way, allowing the proud horse to continue galloping. Later, the horse was struck in the eye. No longer fit for military service, its saddle and harness were removed. It was sold to a farmer who often made it carry heavy loads. One day, the old donkey met the horse again and recognized it immediately. The donkey exclaimed, "Aha! Is that really you?" Pride and arrogance eventually lead to a fall. 32. Secret to longevity. At the base of Mount Tai, there is a stone called Three Laughing Stone. According to legend, three elderly men, each 100 years old, used to come to this stone to exercise and discuss ancient times, always cheerful and happy. One day, they talked about their secrets to living a long life. Mr. A said, "Drink a glass of wine before meals." Mr. B said, "Take a walk after meals." Mr. C said, "My wife is really annoying." They all laughed heartily, and that's how the stone got its name, Three Laughing Stone. The old men's secrets to longevity are simple, but can be puzzling. Actually, what they said makes sense. Drinking a moderate amount of wine can extend life. Taking a walk after meals can also extend life. "My wife is really annoying" is a humorous way of saying that as people age, their need for sexual activity decreases, so don't overindulge. These wise words suggest that we should balance all activities in life and keep everything in moderation. 33. Rabbits in the forest. In a deep, cool, and quiet forest, there was a group of rabbits living together. Whenever a leaf fell to the ground with a rustling sound or a squirrel danced on the branches breaking a young twig, the rabbits would startle and tremble with fear. They were very timid. One day, a strong wind blew through the trees, making a roaring noise, and the branches swayed violently. This scared the rabbits so much that they all jumped and then tried their best to run fast to get out of the forest, their home. They said to each other, "How sad our situation is. We can never eat in peace. We always sleep in fear, startled by a shadow of a tree, our hearts pounding as if they will pop out whenever we hear the sound of a falling leaf. It's better to die than live like this. Let's go drown ourselves in that lake over there." But when they got to the lake, they saw many frogs playing there. As soon as the frogs heard the rabbits' footsteps, they jumped into the water. The timid rabbits were startled by the splashing water, but when they saw the frogs diving deep into the lake, an old wise rabbit said, "Hold on, let's reconsider this. These creatures are even more timid than us. They are even afraid of us. Maybe things aren't as bad as we thought. Perhaps we've been foolish as these frogs, always scared even though there's no real danger. Let's enjoy living on our own land and try to be braver." So, the rabbits returned to their forest. 34. Have a seat and drink some water. An old monk who slept little due to his age often got up in the middle of the night to meditate. One night, a thief broke into the monk's room. Not being able to see clearly, the thief wandered around, searching through the monk's belongings. The monk, sitting quietly, said, "What are you looking for? Have a seat and drink some water." Startled, the thief ran away. 35. The Fox and the Leopard. Once, a fox and a leopard were arguing about who was more beautiful. The leopard boasted about each spot on its skin. The fox, prouder of its intelligence than its appearance, finally interrupted the leopard's boasting with a statement. "Say what you will, I am still more beautiful than you. I don't just have external beauty, but my beauty also shines through my intelligence." The true value of a person is more important than their appearance. 36. The White Weasel. The white weasel admired a handsome young man and begged the god of love to transform it into a beautiful girl. The god obliged, turning it into an enchanting young woman. The young man was immediately smitten and brought the woman home. While they were alone in the room, the god of love wanted to see if love could change the weasel's true nature, so he released a mouse into the room. Forgetting her human form, the white weasel quickly caught the mouse and tore it apart. Angered by this, the god turned her back into her original form. No matter how one may change outwardly, their true nature remains the same. 37. 7 important things. Once upon a time, a man went to see a monk and said, "Sir, please help me. I'm very unhappy with my life. I don't know what I should do." As he spoke, the man began to cry. The monk comforted him and said, "Come, my dear friend, tell me what's happening." The man started to share his sad story. "Sir, I live in a nearby village. I used to be the richest person in the village. I always helped anyone who came to borrow money from me. But when it was time to repay, people made excuses and didn't return the money. I got married a few years ago. I never hid anything from my wife. I told her everything about my past and present, but my wife doesn't respect me. One day, she argued with me when I asked a neighbor to mediate between us. She got angrier and left home. Many times I feel that people respect me to my face but mock me behind my back. I've become a joke in my village. People took advantage of me when I was wealthy. Now, my business is failing, and my wife has left me. I don't know what to do." After listening, the monk thought for a moment and said, "My friend, the reason behind all this is that you are too naive. You have shared things with others that you should never share. Today, I'll tell you about 7 things you should never reveal to anyone." The man listened carefully. 1. Never share your sadness and helplessness. People tend to share their sorrows, thinking it will lessen their pain. But doing this only makes you appear weak in others' eyes. Most people won't help you but will mock you behind your back. If someone does help, they'll expect more in return. If you share your problems with an enemy, they will manipulate your weaknesses to take revenge. So, never share your sadness and helplessness with others. 2. Never share your past mistakes and future plans. Sharing your past mistakes won't fix them. It will only make people mock you. They will doubt you and lose trust. Even if you've improved, they'll still judge you based on your past. Also, keep your future plans to yourself. Sharing them might make you satisfied with just praise and lose your enthusiasm. Others might get jealous and create obstacles for you. Reveal your plans only after you've achieved them. 3. Never share family matters. Don't tell anyone about what's happening in your household. Sharing family disputes with others can give them a chance to interfere and exploit your issues. It can also worsen your relationships at home if family members find out you've been talking about them. 4. Never share your strengths and weaknesses. If your enemies know your strengths, they'll find ways to neutralize them. If they know your weaknesses, they'll exploit them and control you. So, keep your strengths and weaknesses to yourself. 5. Never share your income and savings. If people know you earn well, they'll envy you and ask for loans they won't repay, thinking you don't need the money. If they know you earn little, they'll look down on you and refuse to lend you money, thinking you can't repay it. Either way, sharing this information can damage your relationships and respect in society. 6. Never share your humiliations. If you've been humiliated in the past, don't tell anyone, not even your partner. They might use it against you later. Others can also humiliate you publicly by bringing up your past. 7. Never share about your friends and enemies. Only share this with your closest friends. Most people don't care and might use this information against you. If enemies know who your friends are, they might turn them against you. If friends know your enemies, they might join them to harm you. The monk then became silent and said, "My friend, if you take care of these 7 things and never reveal them to anyone, you will surely live a happy and respected life." The man, with tears of regret, realized his mistake of sharing his secrets and decided never to repeat it. He bowed to the monk and left. So, dear friends, these are the 7 sensitive things you should never share with others. If you can stop sharing these things, you too can live a safe, happy, and respected life.
If you like this video, please comment 1. And if you don't, comment 2. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.
38. Gold bar or mud pile. A Zen master asked someone seeking enlightenment, "What do you think is better, a bar of gold or a pile of mud?" The seeker replied, "Of course, the gold is better." The master smiled and asked, "What if you were a seed?" Reflection. In life, sometimes all we need to do is change our way of thinking and perspective, and perhaps we'll discover wonderful things we've never noticed before. 39. Good news. Robert de Vincenzo is a famous golfer from Argentina. One time, after winning a tournament, he received his prize check and took some photos with the press. Then he went back to the clubhouse to get ready to leave. A bit later, as he was walking to the parking lot alone, a young woman approached him. She congratulated him on his win and told him about her very sick child who might not survive. She said she didn't know how she would pay for the medical bills and hospital fees. De Vincenzo was moved by her story. He took his prize check, signed it, and handed it to the woman. "Please take this to help your child," he said as he gave her the check. The next week, while having lunch at the club, an official from the Professional Golf Association came to his table and said, "The kids in the parking lot told me you met a woman there after the tournament." De Vincenzo nodded. The official continued, "Well, I have news for you. She's a con artist. She doesn't have a sick child. She's not even married. You were tricked." Vincenzo asked, "You mean there was no sick child at all?" "That's right," the official replied. "That's the best news I've heard all week," De Vincenzo said. Two people look through the same bars. One sees only the dark, the other sees the stars. 40. God's gift. God placed it in her hands on a warm summer day. She felt a strange emotion as she looked at its fragile form. It was a very special gift that God had entrusted to her, a gift that one day would belong to the world. Until that day came, he said she would be its protector and caregiver. The young woman understood and respectfully took the gift home, determined to be worthy of the trust God had placed in her. At first, she never took her eyes off it, guarding it against anything she thought might harm it. She watched anxiously whenever it stepped out of the warm cocoon she had lovingly placed it in. But then the woman realized she couldn't protect it forever. It needed to learn to face life's challenges to grow strong. So, with deep care, she gave it some space, just enough for it to grow naturally and comfortably on its own. One day, she noticed her gift had changed a lot. It no longer looked weak and fragile. Now it was strong and sturdy, as if it held an inner strength. Over time, she saw the gift become more powerful and resilient. Deep in her heart, she knew her time with the gift was running out. The inevitable day came when God returned to take the gift and place it in the world. The woman felt a deep sadness, knowing she would always miss its presence in her life. With sincere gratitude, she thanked God for the privilege of caring for such a precious gift all those years. Standing tall and proud, she knew it truly was a very special gift. That gift would now become part of the beauty and essence of the world around it. And so, the mother let her child step into the world. 41. The friendship of QUAN and BAO. Quan Trong was a skilled general during the spring and autumn period, serving King Tuan of Qi and helping Qi become a dominant state. Bao Thuk Nha, also known as Bao Thuk, was famously intelligent. The two were very good friends. Initially, Quan Trong served the son of Duke Xiang, Prince Ju, while Bao Thuk Nha served Prince Ju's brother, Prince Xiao Bai. After Duke Xiang's death, the court decided to bring Prince Ju back to ascend the throne. Fearing that Prince Xiao Bai might return first, Quan Trong chased after him and shot an arrow. Prince Xiao Bai pretended to be hit, deceiving Quan Trong, and quickly returned to Qi with Bao Thuk Nha and took the throne as King Tuan. Once King Tuan ascended, he wanted Bao Thuk Nha as his chancellor, but Bao Thuk Nha recommended Quan Trong, who was then imprisoned. King Tuan agreed and appointed Quan Trong as chancellor. Later, Quan Trong governed Qi effectively, aiding King Tuan in his rule. Quan Trong later reflected, "When I was poor and working with Bao Thuk, I always took more than my share, but Bao Thuk never thought I was greedy. He knew it was because I was poor. I had planned for Bao, but it often led him into deeper troubles, yet he never thought I was foolish. He understood that fortune can be unpredictable. I was imprisoned 3 times by the king, but Bao never saw me as bad. He knew I just hadn't found the right opportunity. I fought and lost 3 battles, but Bao never thought I was cowardly. He knew I had an elderly mother to care for at home. When Prince Ju was defeated and died and I was imprisoned and humiliated, Bao didn't see me as dishonorable. He knew I wasn't ashamed of trivial matters nor disgraced by a tainted reputation. My parents gave me life, but Bao truly understood me." Before Quan Trong's death, King Tuan asked if Bao Thuk Nha could replace him. Quan Trong said no, claiming Bao was too gentle to sternly punish the wicked. If given power, he might harm both King Tuan and himself. After learning of this, Bao Thuk Nha was not upset. On the contrary, he was happy, saying only Quan Trong truly understood him. 42. Be kind to those who aren't kind to you. People often show compassion only to those they consider good, but lack tolerance for those they see as bad. However, those who criticize and hurt us help us overcome our past wrongdoings. Instead of resenting them, we should be thankful. We tend to show compassion to those we think are good, but lack tolerance for those we believe are not. But conflict can't end with hatred. Those who treat us poorly are often stuck in ignorance and can't resolve their own troubles. Through them, we learn patience, tolerance, and forgiveness with a clear mind. Everyone has a Buddha nature. They just might not have the right conditions to awaken to it right now. Understanding this, we can love and treat everyone equally, even those who aren't kind to us. This makes our hearts lighter. Peace comes when we are tolerant enough not to hate anyone, to let go of others' mistakes, and to open our hearts to life with compassion. 43. What does it mean to be adopted? First grade teacher Debbie Moon was discussing a family portrait with her students. In the picture, a boy had a different hair color from the rest of the family members. One student pointed out that the boy was adopted, and Jocelyn J., also an adopted child, spoke up. "I know a lot about being adopted because I am adopted too." "What does being adopted mean?" another student asked. "Being adopted means that instead of being born from your mom's tummy, you are raised and loved from her heart," Jocelyn proudly answered. 44. Backwards logic. A monk was in charge of water transportation, carrying water from morning till evening. Exhausted, he complained to the Duina teacher, "Teacher, I keep pouring water, but the tank never fills up." "That's because you're using buckets with holes in the bottom," the teacher replied, and walked away. The monk scratched his head and muttered, "What he said makes no sense." 45. The hand. On Thanksgiving Day, a first-grade teacher asked her students to draw a picture of what they were grateful for. She was curious to see what these underprivileged children truly appreciated. She expected most of her students to draw pictures of turkeys or tables laden with food. However, she was surprised to see the drawing by a boy named Douglas, a simple, childlike depiction of a hand. Why did Douglas draw a hand? And whose hand was it? The whole class was intrigued by Douglas's drawing. "I think it must be God's hand who brings us food," one boy said. "It's the hand of a farmer," another chimed in, "because he raises turkeys." Later, when the other students were busy with their work, the teacher bent down to Douglas's desk and asked him whose hand it was. "It's your hand, ma'am," the boy whispered. This reminded her that during breaks, she often held Douglas's hand. She did this with other students too, but for Douglas, a quiet and lonely child, this meant a great deal. Perhaps this was what Thanksgiving was really about, not for the material things we receive, but for the small yet significant things we give to others. 46. I still believe in today's youth. Sometimes when I fly to give presentations, I find myself lucky to sit next to fellow passengers who like to chat. It's quite enjoyable, especially because I love listening to others. I've heard many stories about sadness, joy, fear, resentment, and other intriguing things. However, it's disheartening when I have to sit next to someone who just wants to vent all their frustration and anger to an unwilling audience next to them during a long 600-mile flight. I remember once having to endure a lecture on how terrible the world is today. You know, the youth these days are just... He kept going on about the terrible state of today's youth, mostly based on unfiltered daily 6 o'clock news. I was relieved to get off the plane upon arrival, and on my way to the hotel, I picked up a local newspaper. Inside, there was an article that I thought should have been on the front page. The article was about a 15-year-old boy diagnosed with brain cancer, undergoing radiation and chemotherapy. The treatments made him lose all his hair. I remember feeling at his age, I must have been embarrassed and miserable. His friends came up with a solution. All the boys in his class got permission from their families to shave their heads so he wouldn't be the only one without hair at school. And right there in the paper was a picture of a mother shaving her son's head, to the satisfaction of everyone in the family. Yes, I still believe in today's youth. 47. The power of silence. The Buddha always reminded his disciples that our words can be very powerful. He said that the tongue is like the sharpest knife in the world and that the most dangerous weapon in the world is our speech. Even though our words don't cause physical harm, they can hurt others mentally. Our words can be a source of strength, but if we don't know when, where, and how much to speak, they become a weakness. Today we will explore a story about the importance of silence and how it can change your life. This story will help you understand the power of silence. Once upon a time, in India, there was a famous monk living deep in a quiet forest, far from the noise of the world. He was a deep meditator and well known throughout India. One day, a king came to him and said, "Revered monk, I always feel tired, angry, and troubled. My mind is very chaotic even though I have everything, wealth, fame, and all the luxuries one could want. But inside, I have no peace. Please help me clear my chaotic mind." The monk replied, "You have the answer within yourself, but you have never discovered it. I want to conduct an experiment. Would you like to participate? After this experiment, your life will no longer be chaotic and worrisome." The king, though troubled, asked what he needed to do. The monk replied gently, "For the next 15 days, you will live at my monastery and live like an ordinary person. During these 15 days, you will sit alone, stay silent, and speak as little as possible." The king agreed to the monk's plan. On the first day, he noticed his mind was more restless than usual. Many questions and thoughts arose, and he felt uncomfortable. He really wanted to talk, but restrained the urge and remained silent, just sitting still. But as night fell, he began to feel a peace and happiness he had not expected. This experience puzzled him because he couldn't understand why his chaotic mind was slowly calming down. The next day, the king continued to spend time alone, observing nature, flowers, and birds. For the first time, he truly appreciated the beauty of the nature around him. He could observe and connect with the natural world around him. 10 days passed. and all his inner restlessness and chaos gradually disappeared. On the 12th day, he found himself sinking into deep meditation as his eyes closed naturally. After spending the last 3 days in deep meditation, he approached the monk and said, "Revered monk, I have discovered why my mind was so restless." He explained, "I realized that I often talked too much and wasted a lot of energy on others, frequently thinking negatively about them. This excessive talking and negative thinking wasted my time and made my mind chaotic. As a result, I couldn't perform my duties effectively and began to fail at everything. These continuous failures made me more upset and irritable. It negatively impacted my life. However, these 15 days have been a transformative experience. Now I feel like I am truly living my life the right way and realize that before, I was living wrongly. I also understand that we don't need to force meditation. It happens naturally." The monk gently said, "It's not just you. Many people in the world talk too much. Nowadays, many people use words to hurt others, and this excessive talking continues to cause problems in their lives." The monk shared with the king the importance of silence and told a story about a disciple who once asked the Buddha why he often remained silent. The Buddha replied, "I remain silent to delve deeper into myself. Silence is the first step to truly understanding oneself. Without silence, self-discovery is impossible." The monk continued, "It's not just the king. Many people talk too much. Many problems could be avoided if people kept silent. Someone who understands the value of silence can be at peace even in a crowd. Being alone can feel like heaven, while the presence of others can sometimes make us uncomfortable. The most important thing is to start by seeking peace within yourself and accepting silence. Invite your thoughts to stop. If you wake up feeling confused by the presence of others, close your eyes and reconnect with yourself. You will feel a freshness inside because life originates from within, not from others. When no one else can take you inside, you must do it yourself. So look within because you are the master of your inner life. That is where life begins, and that is where happiness is born. When you look within, you will touch the depths of life and even feel the movement of death. This inner journey is like watching your life go through ups and downs like the sun rising and setting. Every time you make this inner journey and return, you will feel renewed. It is like the refreshing feeling after a pleasant bath. Similarly, when someone spends time in silence and reflects on their thoughts, they often feel more peaceful and happy afterward. When you truly connect with your inner self, talking doesn't confuse your mind. Instead, there is always a sense of inner peace. You can talk while maintaining a connection with your inner self. You can use words without losing inner peace. When you do this, your words will carry a wonderful quality, like music, and everything will blend and harmonize. Speaking in this way will deeply touch others' souls. When you maintain inner silence, you begin to access a powerful inner strength and free yourself from social pressure. You will find a special joy in life, similar to the joy of those who pursue their passions. Your face will radiate a new light, and your eyes will sparkle with a special glow when you immerse yourself in the ocean of endless peace. You may realize that talking too much does not bring peace to the soul. Instead, it makes it difficult to control thoughts and maintain focus. People who talk too much often struggle to focus on a task, so they can't give their full attention to their goals and often miss the true meaning of life, making it harder to achieve their aspirations. Additionally, you may notice that people who talk too much are sometimes ridiculed by others, while those who speak less gain respect because people tend to pay attention to what a quiet person says and trust their words. An unsettled mind often struggles to succeed because they lack genuine interest in their work. True wisdom lies in knowing when, where, and what to say, and those who develop this skill often succeed in many situations. A person who speaks less often becomes the center of attention and usually succeeds in many fields. When observing the traits of great people, we see they use few words carefully, considering what they say, and this contributes to their success. On the other hand, many who talk excessively often turn to dishonesty and spread negativity about others, damaging relationships and reputations. Therefore, those around them often avoid them. In the classic texts of many cultures, they often speak about how our words reflect our beliefs and values. Silence helps us become more patient, aware, and meditation can help us understand ourselves better. Therefore, you should spend at least 20 minutes each day alone and enjoy the positive changes in your life. If you find these stories inspiring and they motivate you to take action, please comment 9. If not, comment 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time. 48. Why wise people speak less. Once, a disciple who was a skilled speaker came to study under Buddha to learn from his wisdom. This disciple often spoke more than he listened to his teacher, always eager to share his views. One day, while Buddha was discussing meditation and its significance, all of his disciples were quietly listening. During the talk, Buddha emphasized that one could practice any form of meditation, but to truly delve into meditation, one must awaken a love for exploring their own mind and continuously observe their thoughts. Before Buddha could finish, the eloquent disciple interrupted him, saying, "Master, I have been observing my mind for a long time. I focus on every thought that comes and goes, and I think I understand it. However, I still find no change in my habits. I often feel sleepy during morning meditation sessions and think about getting up early to meditate, but I fail to do so. I've discussed this with my fellow meditators, but no one has an answer. In our community, no one talks. Everyone is silent. How can we understand our minds if we don't discuss our thoughts and mental habits with others?" Buddha responded, "What benefit do you think you will gain by knowing others' thoughts? Is it necessary for you to know them? What will you gain by seeing into others' minds?" Caught off guard, the disciple realized he might not benefit as he thought. Even if he knew others' thoughts or shared his, what good would it do? Could he truly understand his own thoughts better by telling them to others? Buddha continued, "If a disciple meditates well and shares every detail with you, and you try to meditate like him, will it ensure you achieve the same results? You might find yourself trapped in someone else's understanding rather than gaining a deep, personal insight into your own mind." The lesson Buddha was imparting was about the importance of inner silence and observation. By stepping back and observing thoughts as an outsider, one can truly understand their transient nature without becoming entangled in them. This is the path to true consciousness, which remains constant and unbound by fleeting thoughts or emotions. It is through continuous practice and maintaining silence during meditation that one can achieve this deeper awareness and truly experience the impermanence of thoughts and emotions. Buddha concluded by advising the disciple to embrace silence and observe his thoughts and feelings without attachment, learning from the silence itself to better understand the true nature of the mind. 49. The story of the amazing bridge. The Brooklyn Bridge, spanning the river between Manhattan and Brooklyn, is considered a marvel of engineering. In 1883, a creative engineer named John Roebling became fascinated with the idea of building this spectacular bridge. However, bridge experts told him to forget about it because it was an impossible project. Undeterred, he persuaded his son, Washington, a promising engineer, to join him. Together, they envisioned how to complete the bridge and overcome all obstacles. They convinced banks to fund the bridge project, and full of enthusiasm and dedication, they hired workers and began building their dream bridge. Just a few months into the project, disaster struck. An accident on site claimed John Roebling's life, and his son Washington suffered severe brain damage, leaving him unable to walk or talk. Everyone thought the project would be abandoned, as only the Roeblings knew how to build the bridge. Although Washington Roebling could no longer walk or talk, his mind was still sharp. One day, while lying in the hospital, he devised a way to create a communication code. He could only move one finger, but with this code, he used that finger to tap out his thoughts to his wife, who then conveyed his instructions to the engineers working on the bridge. For 13 years, Washington directed the building of the Brooklyn Bridge with the movement of his one functioning finger until the bridge was finally completed. 50. Is it necessary to retreat to the mountains for spiritual practice? Kazuo Inamori, one of Japan's most famous businessmen, once said, "Work itself is a form of spiritual practice. The workplace is a training ground. Every job is an opportunity for personal growth. This kind of growth isn't about sitting solemnly in prayer or acting knowledgeable. It's an action that comes from a strong internal drive." Work holds significant value and meaning for everyone. It can help us overcome desires, refine our character, and develop our personality. The purpose of work is not just to meet our daily needs. That's merely a secondary benefit. Therefore, putting your full effort into your daily tasks is crucial. Only by doing this can you achieve the highest level of spiritual practice, enhancing your mind and spirit. Buddha believed that diligence is very important and one of the ways to reach enlightenment. Diligence means putting effort into your work and focusing on the task at hand. In work, this means tapping into your potential, nurturing your character, refining your mind, and improving your skills. Concentrating on one task, being diligent, and putting in effort day after day will develop your spirit and build a deep character. There's a saying, achieving success in work is not as important as becoming a person who knows how to work. Hard work should be respected. Refining one's character may remind people of religious practice, but to truly love your work, you must put your heart and soul into it. Character should be developed through work, meaning that philosophy is born from sweat and tears, and your mind should be refined through daily labor. Life only happens once, and every day should be lived with utmost seriousness, without wasting any time. Living with this seemingly foolish attitude, if maintained over a long period, can turn even an ordinary person into someone extraordinary. Those who achieve fame and lead in their fields likely followed this path. Labor not only produces economic value, but also creates value for humanity. So do people need to retreat from the world? The workplace is the best environment for spiritual growth, and working is a form of spiritual practice. By putting in real effort every day and cultivating a noble character, you can achieve a beautiful life. There are no jobs without a future, only people without ambition. There was an old carpenter over 60 years old who told his boss he wanted to retire and enjoy his old age with his family. The boss didn't want him to retire and tried to persuade him, but the carpenter was determined. Finally, the boss asked if he could build one last house, and the carpenter agreed. However, during the construction, the carpenter didn't put his heart into the work. He didn't carefully select materials, and the house wasn't up to his usual standards. The boss noticed, but said nothing. After the house was finished, he handed the keys to the carpenter and said, "This is your house, a gift from me." The old carpenter was shocked. He had built so many houses in his life, but never thought the last one he built for himself would be so poorly made. This happened because he didn't maintain the spirit of professionalism to the end. It's easy to be professional for a short time, but it's rare to maintain this spirit throughout your career. Professionalism requires us to be thorough from start to finish in everything we do. Ultimately, what kind of person you become is not determined by the hand you're dealt by fate, but by how you play your cards. The key to playing the game of life well is to enhance your professionalism and joy in your work. Especially in a highly competitive era, you need to have superior skills and a strong, energetic mind. Living is not about seeking pleasure, but a heavy responsibility. We all hope to be ambitious, but often don't know where to start when facing a situation. Perhaps you should revisit the life philosophy you already understand. It's the nutritional factor necessary for a healthy mind. People live in this world and must stay awake forever. Some live for work, some for dreams, and some to discover the true meaning of life. Being born is a gift from God, but living depends on your wisdom and courage. Only by setting out can you achieve your dreams and goals. Only by working hard can you achieve great success. Only by sowing seeds can you harvest. And only by pursuing can you experience what it means to live a dignified life. Focusing on studying, working diligently, practicing spirituality through work, refining professional spirit, actively changing attitudes, and unleashing stronger life energy will lead to a calm and healthy life. 51. No one can save you but yourself. Long ago, a man went to see Buddha for advice on controlling his emotions. He was struggling with anger and disappointment and wanted to improve his emotional management. Buddha smiled, asked him to sit down, and said he would share a story. Once there was a king who ruled a prosperous country. One day he decided to visit a neighboring kingdom because he heard that its king was very wise. Upon arrival, he was warmly welcomed, and a grand feast was prepared in his honor. During the meal, the king noticed a fly in his soup which annoyed him, and he asked for another bowl. The neighboring king saw this and advised him not to be upset over a small fly. The king replied that he couldn't stand such things. Even a small fly could ruin his mood. The wise king smiled and said, "Your Highness, let me offer you some advice. It's not the fly that spoils your mood, but your reaction to it. You have the ability to control your emotions, so don't let them control you." The king realized the wisdom in these words and returned to his kingdom. From that day on, he practiced the art of not reacting to situations that previously would have triggered his emotions. He found that he could remain calm in challenging situations and make better decisions. The power of non-reaction is a vital lesson for all of us. We often react impulsively to situations without thinking, leading to negative consequences. Reacting with anger and disappointment can damage our relationships with others and hinder our ability to make wise decisions. However, it's important to understand that non-reaction doesn't mean suppressing our emotions. Emotions are a natural part of human experience, and acknowledging them is important. Instead of reacting impulsively, we should take time to process our emotions and respond more wisely. Elsewhere in the world, there was a young man named Michael. Michael was very emotional, but he often reacted impulsively to situations that upset him. He would get angry and say hurtful things. One day, Michael decided to control his emotions. He knew his impulsive reactions were more harmful than helpful, and he wanted to change. He began practicing mindfulness and meditation, which helped him become more aware of his thoughts and feelings. He also started practicing the art of non-reaction. Whenever he found himself in a situation that typically triggered negative emotions, he would step back and take a deep breath. Then he would assess the situation more thoughtfully and respond more wisely. At first, it was difficult for Michael to control his emotions. He continued to feel anger and disappointment, but this time he would step back and not react impulsively. As he continued to practice, he found it easier to control his emotions. Michael also noticed that his relationships with others improved. He no longer argued and hurt people's feelings. Instead, he could communicate calmly and thoughtfully, helping him build stronger relationships. One day, Michael's friend came to him for advice during a tough time. Michael listened to all his friend's problems and offered encouraging words. His friend thanked him and noted that Michael always knew what to say and never seemed angry or upset. Michael smiled and replied, "It's not that I never feel angry or upset, but I've learned to control my emotions and not let them control me anymore. This powerful tool has helped improve my relationships and my well-being." His friend was impressed and asked Michael how he could learn to control his emotions. Michael shared his experiences with mindfulness and the power of non-reaction. He encouraged his friend to try it for himself, and his friend was grateful for the advice. Over time, Michael became known for his calm and thoughtful demeanor. He could handle difficult situations easily, and people admired his strength and resilience. Michael continued to practice mindfulness and the art of non-reaction, finding inner peace and happiness. The power of non-reaction is a valuable lesson that we all can learn from. It requires practice and patience, but the rewards are well worth it. By controlling our emotions, we can improve our relationships, make better decisions, and live a more fulfilling life. The moral of the story about the king and Michael teaches us that we have the power to control our emotions. We might not control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. By practicing mindfulness and non-reaction, we can learn to control our emotions and respond more subtly. This powerful tool can help us improve our relationships, health, and quality of life. So let's take the time to train and cultivate this powerful skill and let it transform our lives for the better. The mind is everything, what you think you become. You won't be upset by your anger if you know how to control your emotions. The root of suffering is attachment. If you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice it too. Letting go gives us freedom, and freedom is the only condition for happiness. If our hearts still cling to anything, anger, anxiety, or possessions, we cannot be free. When responding, don't react quickly. Reply with reason, not emotion. Don't live in the past. Don't dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment. The only way to find true happiness is to let go of your resistance to things and people. The mind is everything, what you think you become. Everything we have arises from our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. If you want to change the world, start with yourself first. The mind is like water. When it's turbulent, it's hard to see. When it's calm, everything becomes clear. The tongue is like a sharp knife. It's up to us to purify ourselves. No one can purify another. Stand up and be thankful. If you didn't learn much today, at least you learned a little. And if you didn't learn a little, at least you weren't sick. And if you were sick, at least you didn't die. So be thankful. The only real failure in life is not living up to the best that we have within us. The past is gone. The future has not yet come. We have only this moment to live. Concentrate the mind on the present moment. The mind is everything, what you think you become. The only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking, don't settle. Like all matters of the heart, you'll know when you find it. The greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. Whenever you fall, no one can save you but yourself. You must walk the path on your own.
If you like this video, please comment 1. And if you don't, comment 2. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.
52. Think about it. In 1889, Rudyard Kipling, the author who won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1907, once received a rejection letter from the San Francisco Examiner. They said, "I'm sorry, Mr. Kipling, but you just don't know how to use the English language." Winston Churchill failed the 6th grade. He became the Prime Minister of England at 62 after a lifetime of failures. His greatest contributions came after he retired. Albert Einstein didn't speak until he was 4 and couldn't read until he was 7. His teacher said, "He's slow, unsociable, and always has foolish dreams. He was expelled from school and was refused entry to Zurich Polytechnic. Louis Pasteur was an average student, ranking 15th out of 22 in chemistry. General Douglas MacArthur was rejected twice by West Point. He was accepted on his third try and became one of the most celebrated generals in history. In 1944, Emmeline Snively, the director of the Blue Book modeling agency, told aspiring model Norma Jean Baker, Marilyn Monroe, "You should consider becoming a secretary or getting married." When rejecting the British rock band The Beatles, the Decca Records manager said, "We don't like their sound. Guitar groups are on the way out." In 1954, Jimmy Denny, manager of the Grand Ole Opry, fired Elvis Presley after just one performance. He told Presley, "You ain't going nowhere, son. You ought to go back to driving a truck." When Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone in 1876, it wasn't well received. President Rutherford Hayes said, "That's an amazing invention, but who would ever want to use one of them?" Before inventing the light bulb, Thomas Edison conducted over 2,000 experiments. A young reporter asked how it felt to fail so many times. Edison said, "I never failed once. I invented the light bulb. It just happened to be a 2000-step process." After years of deteriorating hearing, by age 46, German composer Ludwig van Beethoven was completely deaf. Despite this, he wrote some of his greatest music, including 5 symphonies in his later years. Failure is simply the opportunity to begin again, this time more intelligently. 53. Empty your mind. Nan-in was a Zen master in Japan during the Meiji era. One day, a highly educated professor came to him to inquire about Zen. Nan-in served tea as part of the visit. As he poured tea into the professor's cup, he kept pouring even after the cup was full, spilling tea all over. The professor watched the overflow until he no longer could restrain himself and asked, "It's overfull. No more will go in." "Like this cup," Nan-in replied slowly. "You are full of your own opinions and speculations. How can I show you Zen unless you first empty your cup?" Reflection. This story isn't just about learning Zen. Whether it's a religion, a person, a group, a culture, a nation, a history, or a specific event, we must clear our minds of biases, assumptions, and preconceptions. By keeping our minds like an empty cup or a blank sheet of paper, we can truly learn and absorb new things. 54. What we didn't tell him. When my son Joey was born, he had a birth defect in his leg. The doctors assured us that after treatment he would be able to walk normally, but running might be difficult. For the first 3 years of his life, Joey went through numerous surgeries, braces, and bandages. By the time he was 8, you couldn't tell by looking at him that there had ever been a problem with his leg. Like other kids his age, Joey loved to run and play tag with his friends. We never told him that he might never be able to run like the other kids, so Joey didn't know that. In 7th grade, Joey decided to join the school cross-country team. He trained with the team every day. Joey was the most dedicated, often running more than anyone else, maybe because he felt that running was a bit harder for him than for others. Even though the whole team trained, only the top 7 runners were chosen to compete for the school. We never told Joey that it would be hard for him to make that group, so Joey didn't know that. Joey ran 4 to 5 miles every day, even when he had a 102-degree fever. One day, I was so worried that I went to the school during practice to check on him. When I got there, Joey was running alone on the track. When I asked him, he simply said, "I'm fine." He still had 2 miles to go to finish his workout. Sweat was pouring off his face, and his eyes were blurry from the fever, but Joey kept his gaze forward and continued running. We never told him that he couldn't run 4 miles with a high fever. So, Joey didn't know that. 2 weeks later, the names of the cross-country team members were announced. Joey was 6th on the list. He made the team. He was the only 7th grader. The others were all 8th graders. We never told Joey he couldn't do it, and because we never told him that, Joey didn't know. He just did his best. Only time can turn a dull stone into a shining gem. Only time can transform an ordinary person into a great one. And only time can reveal the truest values. If you find these stories inspiring and they motivate you to take action, please comment 9. If not, comment 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.